Well, when I first married Randy and moved out here, one of the crops that we grew was cotton. And it was very normal for Mexicans to come across to do some seasonal labor. And of course, it wasn't illegal to hire them. And they would come across at cotton picking time and help stomp trailers or do whatever. And then it became illegal to hire the Mexican people, so we stopped using them. However, one of the crops that we grew recently was chili, and we worked through chili contractors, picking contractors, who hired day labor from that would come across from Mexico that had hopefully all the credentials, but that they needed. We dealt strictly with the contractor, not with the people themselves. But the thing of it is you're responsible if there's someone that has not told the truth and that they don't have the legal documentation to be here. And of course, that's another story. We don't grow chili anymore, so it was too labor intensive and too big a pain working with the state government on labor and that sort of thing. But what has happened with the influx of people coming over here now, I would do without the labor before you have to put up and deal with what you're dealing with now. Because the element is different, the people are different. More people than not that are coming over here are coming over here for no good purpose.
And how do you know that? What are the signs of that
we have found bales of marijuana out in the middle of the cornfields. At the house at the end of the road where I used as a mark,
sure.
Landmark, on the back of the door is written MS-13. And Border Patrolman was in there one day, and his statement, I said, why would they do that? He says, that's their way of telling us we're here and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And this is a mile from the house where my grandchildren are growing up.
This summer, I found 4 backpacks of marijuana on our property. And my ranch property borders Interstate 10. And as you go to Lordsburg, you'll see a cranberry sign of a local restaurant in Lordsburg, and that's where I found those backpacks. And there had been camouflage in the grass, but obviously had been not picked up or were going to be picked up. One other incident that has happened in recent years, about 3 years ago, my son was visiting. He's an adult son that lives here in the valley, and noticed a fire or a flame down by my mother's house. She's about 80 years old and was at the time. And we investigated and called the Border Patrol because we knew it was probably illegals walking through, and called the Border Patrol to come out. We're 20 minutes from Lordsburg, where their station is. No one ever showed up. My son and I actually drove down there, and they had a campfire, and there was one guy still sitting there at the campfire. And we just had a conversation with him, but the next morning in checking tracks, it was a large group. But in the dark, we don't know. And looking back, I think we took a high risk to be approaching them like that in the dark. But we were very upset. My family was that we called the Border Patrol. They did not even respond to our call, and never did show up. And my mother, who's elderly and lives alone, was right there. It was near her house.
On our ranch, we had, not too long ago, my son called the Border Patrol. They had a bunch of illegals coming through, and they came in with a helicopter and picked up the drugs they dropped. But they left the illegals running through his backyard, and he called them and says, hey, I got all these illegals running through my backyard, and they weren't concerned about that. All they wanted was the drugs. Okay. They wanted the drugs. They brought the helicopter up, loaded the drugs off, and left. They didn't care about the illegals. Then we went the next day riding on our ranch. The illegals had brought a bunch of horses and mules to pack all that stuff and left them on our ranch tied up. And if we hadn't checked them, those horses have been without feed and water until they broke loose or something. So we called the Border Patrol. They didn't want the horses. they could care less about them, so they left it up to us to deal with them. About 45 years ago this month, they broke into our house. We didn't see anything missing, and until the next morning, then they had cleared out our refrigerator, which they were hungry. I didn't have a problem with that. The same time, the next month, we were hit again. The same time, they broke into our house while we were there, and I called 911. They responded with one Border Patrol. We got to checking around. They broke into our storeroom. They stole food out of the freezer, stole guns, and they didn't get a helicopter up. And again, only one Border Patrol responded. Local authorities responded later. They couldn't find anything. We got the impression they didn't believe us, that we were broken into. I called the next day. I called the head office in Lawrenceburg and told them we had a problem here, that they're coming, dropping their drugs off on Highway 9. They're using Highway 9 here as their drop-off point. They were dropping it off and then stealing and taking whatever they could back to the border. And I said, you know, we need some more presence at Border Patrol at this time of month here. And of course their response was, we can't come out and camp at your house. And I said, I didn't ask you to do that. I want more presence of Border Patrol at this time of month, because apparently we've got a pattern here. Well, they didn't do anything, and then the next month we were hit again. I raised sheep. I had a ewe that aborted a lamb. I had her in a little small area about like this. Went out there the next morning, she was gone. Well, when I called and told them that we were hit again, that they stole a sheep, the dispatcher kind of laughed. A sheep? And of course I kind of took offense to it. I said, well, you know, it's a $500 sheep, and if they continue to do what they're doing, I'll be out of business. But anyway, they sent out one guy, and they sent out a helicopter that time. They found that they couldn't find anything. So we sent our hired hand out, and he horseback, and he made the circles, and he found where they butchered that sheep. And they had also broken into our foster son's vehicle, stole clothing and saddle blankets and stuff that they could carry, and what they didn't want, they threw it down. But they did not pursue it, and sent one. And then I think our county sheriff's deputy did more on that job than Border Patrol ever did.
During my 18 years, we had a wonderful, wonderful close working relationship with the Border Patrol. There weren't 250 agents in Lordsburg at the time. There were maybe 10. I'm kind of giving away how old I am. But when the Border Patrol, we heard them, and they had a load of drugs or were chasing somebody, we were always there. And by the same token, there were times I was in the middle of the night responding to a house where there was a family fight going on and no backup, and I turned around and there was a Border Patrol agent right behind me helping me out. So we had a really great relationship.
The Border Patrol doubled in size from 99 to 2004 or 5, and then doubled again from 2004 to 2005. I've heard from people who were arrested from the other side of the fence that the old Border Patrol guys are really relaxed, calm, kind even to them. The new guys, and even sometimes they say Latinos, are not so nice to them often. So I was just curious if you people perceive a difference between these new recruits and the old timers.
And maybe some of the other people here have, but I think they're trying, and it's just a matter of suddenly having a huge group of new guys who are out here for the first time, and I help them out every way I can.
In response to that, being a rancher and have stopped or visited or see Border Patrolmen out working and patrolling, and have a perception on some of the new recruits, some of the young guys that are from Michigan or back east, LA area. They're city born and bred young men that have good intention to do a great job. But this is scary. This is out here in open space, and you kind of get that feeling, they're real unfamiliar a lot with the experience, and in that, I think they personally feel a little bit threatened about their own safety, and therefore I would call it maybe timid or could overreact, but I don't have a negative overall feeling about the Border Patrol. I want to support them. I call them, and want to see them do their job.
What I see is they're green. They need to be educated about the area they're serving in. They're like you said, I think they're too green. They're unfamiliar with their surroundings, and they're thrown into something that maybe they're not prepared for.
When we've had cattle thefts, had complete pipeline taken apart and carted to Mexico. Windmills gone, vehicles stolen, and just about anything you can think of. We intercepted a pickup one night down at Hachita. It was going to go through a place we call Los Moscos Gate down there and into Mexico. And the vehicle was stolen, but in the back of it was welders and everything that were stolen from C-Bar Ranch up here. So you ran into a lot of different things.
You're talking about a sovereign nation, you can't go over and enforce the law in another country. We can't even do it in another state within the United States.
Right, yeah, I just wondered if the federal agents would be willing to pursue it.
When I was in office, I had the mayor of Palomas, Mexico contact me, and he said, Bill, if you ever have a vehicle stolen in Hidalgo County, call us, and the police department will be waiting, looking for it. And he said, we'll just forego all the red tape and the extradition, and we'll just hold the truck for you and throw the guy across the border to you and all that. And so that was really nice. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Fortunately, we never had a situation during my term, but dealing with another country and their laws, it's just pretty much useless. I mean, you could complain about it, but nothing would be done. They've tried in the past.